Taking various viewer comments from my previous video on gil per minute, I've been investigating a further series of gil farms in FF14 to see how they stack up. Spoiler alert, there is a new top dog in town, stay tuned. Results from my last video on screen now. Find a link in the corner if you want to catch up on any of those methods before watching this, else link in the description if you want to go back. I'll update this list at the end of the video. To emphasise a previous point, highest gil per min doesn't necessarily mean best, as some methods involve aspects like RNG which will influence personal opinions on what's best. First up is a variation on the Grand Company seal farm which I previously covered. In the first vid I was looking at spamming the Alexander raid, the Fist of the Father, which after converting the drop tokens to Grand Company seals and then buying items to sell on the market board like Peacock Ore or Equestrious Whetstones, average 5.5 gil per minute. But switching this up to the Burden of the Father raid, still unsynced, proved much quicker. With kill times around 60 seconds, I was in and out in around 1 minute 20 instead of just under 2 minutes. This upped the gil per minute to a highly respectable 7.3k per minute, netting 39k in just over 5 minutes after market board sales. I had other suggestions for dungeons to try, but after multiple attempts I failed to be able to achieve the efficiency of the Burden of the Father, especially as Grand Company seals earned from dungeon runs weren't 100% consistent. As a side note here, I've stuck with buying items to sell on the market board, but if you refuse to deal with the market board, then straight up selling the gear to any vendors for gil rather than GC seals can earn a not too shabby 1.9k gil per minute, giving quick, accessible and easy with no RNG or market board involvement. Next up, Fates. Decent option if you're also looking to level your classes, but a fair amount of initial legwork involved. You need to get max rank in all endwalker areas before you can make any real money. This means having all 6 endwalker areas at rank 3 in the shared fates menu under travel, which unlocks additional gemstone vendors in Old Charlayan and Razatan that will sell you bi-coloured gemstone vouchers for 100 gemstones apiece. This means doing just shy of 400 fates before you can even take part. So if you haven't touched fates at all, I wouldn't be looking at this purely for making gil. If unaware, you get 14 gemstones awarded per successful fate straight from the off. The value of the vouchers has remained strong since 6.0, currently averaging about 75k a piece. If unaware, these have a demand as a whopping 500 of these can be traded for the Fallen Angel Wings all Vivir mount. You could in theory make a bit more profit by attempting to farm all 500 yourself to sell the mount or wings whole, but given that it'll take about 3,500 fates, it's quite the task and will only boost your profits from about 3.7k per minute buying vouchers to about 4.1k per minute. Next, Blue Mage runs. This method involves spamming the vault solo and synced, killing only the mobs leading up to the first boss, before exiting the instance and rinsing and repeating over and over. Leveling a Blue Mage from 1 to 70 can be done in a couple of hours these days with a level 90 friend to help you out, and you only need a handful of specific spells to make this work. And the Blue Mage journey is pretty fun if you ask me. This method in particular is nice as it gives pure gil, no need to exchange or sell anything on the market board. With runs taking around a minute, you'll be able to achieve 5k per minute comfortably, being able to repeat a maximum of 100 times a day before the instance limit kicks in. If interested, I will link to a most excellent video on the topic from YouTuber Rigel Natsuki, covering the method in more detail, including suggestions for specific spells and how to get them. The only thing I do different to his method is use Swiftcast and Self-Destruct on the final mod pack. Next, Materia Transmutation. If unaware, there is a mechanism in the game to offload outdated materia called Materia Transmutation. This is accessed via the level 19 quest Marvellously Mutable Materia in Central Thanalan, subsequently with the NPC Mutamix, also where you picked up the quest. The basic function is to trade 5 materia of any sort for 1 random materia. RNG can be influenced to a degree as you will not get back the same materia types that you put in. The other mechanic of note is that you have the chance to get a materia back 1 level up, e.g. transmute materia 8 and you could get a 9 back if the RNG gods smile favourably on you. Also note, battle materia can transmute into crafter and gatherer materia, which can be profitable. I did it as quickly as possible to demonstrate the method, though I'm sure there's lots of min-maxers out there with guides on maximising profits from certain materia types. Therefore, I'll asterisk my conclusion, as I'm sure in-depth guides out there on YouTube and the like will showcase how to get more efficient. For my test, I went onto the market board and brought all materia 5, 6, 7 and 8s, which were retailing at a measly 150 gil or less, landing me approximately 880 materia to play with, spending 129,000 gil in the process. Hastening over to Mutamix, I then transmuted the stacks as quickly as possible until everything was converted into crafting and gathering materia. Now, this is a spot where taking more time will potentially bring you more profit, as to be quick through the menus I was largely transmuting the same type, though if you took more time you could select 5 different materia to transmute, giving you a better chance of getting the materia wanted. Having started with 880 of garbage cheap materia, I finished up with 96 crafter and gatherer materia. In addition to being of a higher value, these also tend to sell quite quickly as well. After selling it all, I ended up with 252,000 gil, aka 123,000 profit. I spent 10 minutes buying materia on the market board, 10 minutes transmuting it, and 3 minutes relisting it. 23 mins in total for 123 gil, so 5.3k gil per minute. I will asterisk this, as I'm sure this could be pushed higher with in-depth understanding and planning re which materia to buy and transmute. Last up, Bozjan Cluster Farm, the Bozjan Southern Front, apparently the place of gil dreams. You will need to be in a party for this to work, but I found it pretty easy to just shout in Bozjan LFG Cluster Farm at any peak time of the day, aka evenings, and quickly be invited into a group. If you're new to Bozjan, here you'll be simply killing any mechanical type ads which constantly spawn to RNG drop clusters. There is an efficiency in the art here though. The best groups of 8 will split up into 3 parties and farm concurrently within each of the 3 separate zones. A split of tank healer and 2 sets of tank healer DPS work really well. However, failing that, almost any composition can successfully work utilising the duty actions available, like Cure for example if you have no healer. To access Bozjan, you'll need to do the level 80 quest Where Eagle's Nest located in Gangos, which is accessed via the Dome and Enclave. To be of most use to your party, you'll want to follow the quest chain and get up to a minimum resistance rank of 8 in order to be able to access all 3 areas to be flexible in your party. Though theoretically, you could join a farm party straight after entering Bozjan, though you'd have to inform your teammates that you can only farm in the party in the first zone. On my main test run, the team fluctuated between 6 to 8 people, and we were obtaining a cluster roughly every 30 seconds. An unnecessary amount for one sitting, but I managed to farm out 455 clusters in roughly 4.5 hours. 455 enabled me to buy 1 of each of the MVP items from the vendor within the Southern Front, including a mount, parasol, hairstyle and a couple of dancers. I sold all of these 5 items over 8 days, netting 3.9 million gil, versus average prices across all EU services. Equating this to the 4.5 hours work gives us a return of 14.7k gil per minute, taking over Faux Hollows as the reigning champion gil farm. Theoretically, you could make even more money if you spent all clusters on certain items like the dancers, which individually offer more profit, but as I always recommend with items that don't sell overly quickly, spread your currency out, else you'll just be left struggling to sell the items for weeks on end. Overall, massive gil with limited RNG concerns, though with sales on the slightly slower side, it's something I'd do once, leave my items to sell over the next week or so, and then repeat again, rather than spamming all day every day to be left with a clogged up inventory. So here it is, the refreshed list after this vid. Find my previous video in the description if you'd like to learn more on any of the previous entries. All done. A huge thanks to all the likers, subscribers and commenters on the previous video who inadvertently contributed to this one. As always, I'd be eternally grateful if you like and subscribe to complete the duty.